Okay, in any other world, in any other news cycle, in any other administration, the President of the United States saying this on the world stage would be huge, blaring, front page, you couldn't avoid it kind of news.
Usually they say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator.
Now, that of course, was the man who currently occupies the Oval Office saying sometimes you need a dictator and basically owning up to being one. A profoundly, doesn't matter how many times he says it, disturbing sentiment from the man who's supposed to be leading the world's most powerful democracy. So why didn't that statement dominate all the headlines today? We hear talking about it, but why didn't it dominate the headlines? Well, in part because we already know he sees himself as a dictator based on his tyrannical approach to governing, and also because on the same day at the World Economic Forum in Davos, when he proudly owned up to being a dictator, his shocking disconnection from reality was also on full display in the speech. I mean, today before an audience of world leaders, Trump rambled for over an hour, railing against our allies, including the host nation of Switzerland, insulting Joe Biden, lamenting that windmills are losers, and also reiterating his plans to take over Greenland. Of course, Trump has been obsessed with the idea of the U.S. taking control of Greenland for nearly a decade. The man has been fixated on it since his first term. I mean, Donald Trump has given more thought to annexing Greenland, I think it's safe to say, than he has given to most geopolitical issues, which is why it was so remarkable when today Donald Trump could not seem to remember exactly which territory he has long been completely obsessed with annexing.
I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time. A very smart man said, he's our daddy. He's running it. I was like running it. I went from running it to being a terrible human being. But now what I'm asking for is a piece of ice, cold and poorly located, that can play a vital role in world peace and world protection.
Hey, Daddy, I have a question for you. Why are we talking about Iceland all of a sudden? I mean, I thought the territory that you wanted to take over is Greenland, not Iceland. You can see them on the map there, two different countries. But hey, we all make mistakes from time to time, a slip of the tongue. I mean, it's not like you repeated that mistake over and over and over again in front of the entire world, right?
So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone up.
That's not over and over again. Trump referred to the territory he wanted to take over as Iceland in front of a bunch of world leaders, which, again, is an entirely different country, an entirely different island, which means there is now an entirely different population sitting around wondering if the American president is going to try and annex their home because he can't remember what word comes before land on the map of allied nations he wants to claim for himself. But hey, I mean, maybe Trump is just feeling sleepy again. We know that happens. Probably just tired from his long trip to Switzerland. I bet if we went back and listened to his nearly 2-hour tour de force in the White House briefing room yesterday, you'd find a much more cogent version of what he's trying to say.
As an example, Iceland, without tariffs, they wouldn't even be talking to us.
But Iceland again. I mean, Donald Trump literally cannot remember which country he has long wanted to invade. Remember, this is the guy who claims he is going to start a new Donroe Doctrine. I mean, I don't even know how to say that. I don't want to know how to say that. Of U.S. control over the entire western half of the globe. What is he going to do when he finds out there's a Uruguay and a Paraguay? What is he going to do? Now, given the international crisis that's Trump's Greenland's ambitions have set off, his repeated flub obviously caused the attention of reporters in the room. And News Nation's Libby Dean posted this from the event. Quote, during his World Economic Forum remarks, President Trump appeared to mix up Greenland and Iceland around 3 times. Look, I just showed you them. You just saw them on your screen. That's a very straightforward description of what we all witnessed with our own eyes, what we all heard with our own ears. But since this administration will not abide by any reporting that doesn't sound like a North Korean state media broadcast, Trump's press secretary immediately fired back, quote, "No, he didn't, Libby. His written remarks referred to Greenland as a piece of ice because that's what it is. You're the only one mixing anything up here." Okay, as a sidebar, your written remarks have nothing to do with what you say repeatedly, publicly out of your mouth of the President of the United States, so that doesn't address it. But that's what that is. That's what the press secretary said. So I realize that the American right has just spent the last few weeks trying to convince us that what we see on videotape is not actually the God's honest truth, what we see with our own eyes. But this is really kind of another level of reality denial here. I mean, there's no special camera angle or selective edit or spin that can make you believe this is anything other than what it was. The President of the United States saying the word Iceland over and over again.
When I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money.
Iceland is not Greenland. Greenland is not Iceland. You don't have to be an expert in foreign policy to know that. Anyone who's ever glanced at a map could tell you that. I mean, anyone who may have watched Mighty Ducks 2 could also tell you that.
Wait a minute. I thought Iceland was covered with ice.
Iceland? No, it's very green.
I thought Greenland was green.
Greenland is covered with ice, and Iceland is very nice.
Listen, anyone out there who knows anyone in the White House, if you're trying to help him get it straight, that video is available. You can find it, and maybe it's in his terms. But that's really where we are, everyone. I mean, a kid's movie from the 90s is literally operating at a higher level of geographical understanding than the President of the United States right now. And God love him, there are still too many people in the American press who are trying to analyze all of this through some serious foreign policy lens, where words are chosen with intention and delicate diplomatic meaning. I mean, today, during that same event, Donald Trump also said this about his plans for Greenland.
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good.
Now, let's hope that's the case. And certainly that's what we should all hope for. Immediately after Trump made those comments, news organizations everywhere started running with headlines like this. Trump rules out using military force to acquire Greenland in Davos speech. Trump says he will not use force to acquire Greenland. Trump rules out using force to acquire Greenland. Now, let's hope, again, that's the case. But Trump literally started that sentence with, we probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. That phrase, that sounds to me a little bit more like a mob boss telling you he doesn't want to have to break your legs, but he will if he needs to. Then
a politician anywhere, hey, I want you to raise the price of drugs in your country. That is an insane political proposition on its face. Here's the Trump version.
I said, Emmanuel, you're going to be doubling or tripling? No, no, no. I said, here's the story, Emmanuel. The answer is you're going to do it. You're going to do it fast. And if you don't, I'm putting a 25% tariff on everything that you sell into the United States and a 100% tariff on your wines and champagnes. And that's about 10 times more than what I'm requesting. And you're going to do it. I don't want to go public with it, but you may make me do that. No, no, Donald, I will do it. I will do it. It took me, on average, 3 minutes a country, saying the same thing. You will do it. They all said, no, 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 I will not do it. You're asking me to double the cost of prescription. I said, that's right, because you've been screwing us for 30 years. And they said, we will not do it. I said, that's all right. On Monday morning, we're putting a 25, 30, 50. I gave different numbers for different countries.
Donald Trump claims he wants the United States to have the lowest drug prices in the world, but at the same time, he claims he wants to raise the lowest drug price in the world. He wants France and other countries to raise their lower drug prices so that the United States only has to match a much higher lowest drug price. The man had absolutely no idea what he was saying 1 second of that lying hallucination. Had no idea what was coming out of his mouth. Those 3-minute deals he claims he made, just describing that one hallucination with the president of France took him more than 3 minutes. His ignorance is getting bigger. Knowledge is actually the antidote to ignorance. Ignorance gets reduced through knowledge. But Donald Trump is uneducable. Donald Trump hears the phrase, most favored nation, has no idea what it means, throws it into a hallucination about drug prices, has no idea how they work, and thinks he's somehow doing Americans a favor by convincing the French president to raise the cost of drugs, which would in effect raise the cost of drugs around the world and raise the cost of drugs from what would have been a lower price for Americans.
Donald will never be welcome back on the world stage in the same way. Never. And Davos is they want his ass out of there ASAP. The way he acted, and I know he's partially pulling back, where he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to invade Greenland, Denmark, or whatnot." But like, one, you don't get to just put that back in the bottle. You don't just get to make the threats you made and not have the consequences linger. Even if he does genuinely stop, no one will ever trust him again at Davos, in Switzerland, in Greenland, Denmark, anywhere in the EU, NATO. No one can ever trust him again once he made those threats. Right? Especially when it went from, oh, we need to get Greenland, back last January when he first came back to power, versus his posturing when he says we need to, potentially invade it. He wasn't ruling out military force. He said we can do it the nice way or the not nice way. That's a mafia style, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Like Vito Corleone, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's what he's trying to do, right? And so even if he does stop it, no one can ever trust him again. But he's not going to stop. How do we know that he's not going to just change his mind tomorrow, tonight, next week, and say, actually, you know what? I do want to invade Greenland again, actually. I would like to invade them. And also, I'm back on my invade Panama. He hasn't talked about Panama in a while, right? He's like, actually, I now also want to invade Panama again, actually. For sure. And, Venezuela, I'm going to invade that again. For some reason. Even though I'm just going to do that. Is he going to do that? I don't know. But can you honestly look at the screen right now and say, you know what, you're being a little too far-fetched. There's no way he's going to do... You can't say that. And that's why the world leaders don't want him around. Because they can't trust him. Look, there's always been distrust of the United States. It's too powerful. It has too much power for one country. But it was never as erratic as it is now.